Thank you very much. Thanks to Internet Archive and to Peter and all the friends. But first I have to say, wasn't Liz Castro's talk inspiring? I just think she's the best. And I have to share a little story about that little book called HTML Visual Quick Start. I took over the reins from Ted Nace, who was the founding publisher of Peach Pit in '96, and this was right after he'd signed this book, HTML Visual Quick Start, and he shared with me confidentially that he was quite worried that no one would buy any books on such a obscure topic as HTML, and it went on to sell during the Halcyon days 20,000 copies a month. I mean, more than any other title during that period. So it was really set the stage for HTML becoming the standard. So around our office, she's Queen Elizabeth. Anyway, so I'm supposed to talk about, well, I'll talk a little bit about what I do. I'm vice president of Pearson Technology, and that's a group of imprints and digital products that span IT professionals and creative professionals, and I run the creative professional business unit and publish books in Peach Pit Press and New Writers and Adobe Press and Apple Training and so on. When Peter suggested I talk about lessons from the ebook foundry, I sat down with my team and we started contemplating what lessons we'd learned, and it struck us all that we're never too old to learn something really stupid, meaning all the lessons that we were learning had learned were so stupidly obvious, and yet when we first started doing ebooks, it didn't occur to us that these things were important. And so I guess another reason why Peter wanted me to talk about our ebook foundry is because we publish about 500 ebooks a year. So we're doing a lot of ebooks, and we have to scale. And so we're perhaps different from the self-publishers or the smaller publishers who are doing maybe 20 or 30 a year. We have to do things that help us scale to do that many. We do about 470 print books a year, but over 500 ebooks. We also do videos and labs and simulations and assessments and certification products. So ebooks alone are not the only digital. And I would say we're going to be surpassing 35% of our sales as ebooks alone, so that gives you an idea, and 50% of digital alone. So we're no longer a print publisher. And ebook sales are growing, and we've done them for about 9 to 10 years, so we have learned a few lessons. And as I said, here are some of the creative disciplines that we follow. I would say my team bears the scars and the scrapes and the bruises as a badge of honor in our field, because they're working with the top creative pros. So not only do we work with the geeky side of the business, we work with the top creative pros, the photographers and the designers, who intentionally create a design and don't want it disrupted by the reader. That's, as we all know, not true anymore. So our favorite joke on the topic is, how many publishing professionals does it take to create an ebook version of a design book or a photography book? Takes about 3, right? 1 to actually do it, and the other 2 to hold down the designer and the author, right? Because designers and authors in this field, in the creative industry, just don't understand the limitations of EPUB. And one of my favorite authors calls it affectionately e-puke. And so for the longest time, we could only publish their PDFs. They did not want to be on the Kindle until they started to see some of the numbers. So I'll go ahead and share some of the lessons. This is a really easy one size doesn't fit all. We have established a scalable process for the conversion of every print book into these flavors, so EPUB, MOBI, and PDF. But we recognize that while that's scalable, and we use a conversion house to do that, that there are a lot of books that won't fit this model. This book, grouped by Paul Adams, is about the social network, this book has very few illustrations in it, is really easy to convert to EPUB without a lot of trouble, but there are going to be other books that are much harder to do. We'll talk about those in a minute. We did find that EPUB purchasers, the customers, the consumers, may need different versions and different flavors for different devices. So we realized pretty early on that we needed to offer all three formats for the price of one. So you can't get this at Amazon or anywhere else, but on our site, you can get the EPUB and the Mobi and the PDF. Another important lesson is you can't do the lowest common denominator and expect to be able to support your brand or support your design if it's important to you, and that you have to think outside the page. And again, this is, it's stupidly obvious to all of us today, but these things, when we were first starting to do them, didn't occur to us. That page container was sacrosanct. So we started looking at ways to think outside of the page, and I think that the first example that might help illustrate what we've done is looking at a spread from a Scott Kelby photography book, and this is the page fidelity PDF, if you will. It's a PDF that is an exact duplicate of the print book, and it's not very reader-friendly on an iPad. It's not very reader-friendly in EPUB on the Kindle. So we had to break free and figure out a way to optimize for screen viewing. So we started to rethink the layout and just create a new layout, a parallel layout process to the print layout process, where we pulled apart the steps. This was very easy to do because it was a step-by-step book. And we made the images large and beautiful to take advantage of all of the folks reading on the iPad. And we did do customer research and found that of the creative professional audience, the majority of them read on the iPad, not on the e-ink Kindle or other devices like the Kindle Fire. So you can see that these two screen views are much better experience design for readers than the print spread. So here's another screen optimized example, and I should say that these two were done with different processes. And what we find is sometimes we have the same design that we have to customize in terms of the end-use device. So if you're going into the iBooks bookstore and you can do a what's called a fixed layout EPUB and embed your fonts, then you would do this version here. And if you want to do a PDF and say you wanted to sell that PDF through Amazon, this would be the redesign you would do for the PDF. So in some cases, we're redesigning a layout for a screen viewing PDF or redesigning it for a fixed layout EPUB in iBookstore. And another example is a book that's coming out soon by Marty Neubauer, who's a graphic designer and a branding expert. And what Marty's saying is, you know what, I want all those people reading in e-ink Kindle devices to be able to enjoy my book. So he's helping us design two different custom designs, one for print and one for EPUB. So it's not going to be a fixed layout EPUB. It's not going to be an iBooks author. It's going to be a straight black and white EPUB, but customized and enhanced so that he'll take his spread, that's a spread up there, Where Will We Live, and looks beautiful on a 6x9 print book, and he's redesigned it so that the type stacks, and it's one page, a vertical, which works very well on a black and white Kindle. So he's working with us to design two different versions, one for EPUB, one for the print book at the same time. And this is a lesson we learned very early too, is in the old days, meaning 5 years ago or whatever, when we first started doing all of this seriously, we would always think print book first, ebook is after the print book goes to press. Now, ebook goes to the front of the line. We think about the ebook experience and the customer experience with that ebook before we even think about the print, because we have to know what parallel designs we need to be doing and how many of them we're going to be doing, depending on which distribution channel we think will attract the biggest audience. And there are numerous distribution channels today. There's our own on our own site where we can do a lot more. We are partners with O'Reilly and Safari Books Online and Creative Edge, so our books are all in that subscription service. Then we're in Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and so we always have to think about how will it display in each of those channels. So here's another example of that was a spread on the left, and here he's redesigned it on the right as a vertical. Okay, so this lesson, show and tell, then show and tell. This was a very hard one, even though it seems stupidly obvious right now, today. But when we first started selling PDFs, we found that we'd got about 30% of those who purchased it who would call us and have horrible complaints about not knowing how to access the Adobe Editions PDF and struggling with the downloading, etc. And we knew if we were getting 30% of purchasers, there were another 30 to 50 out there who were very unhappy. So we had a lot of unhappy customers in the early days. And then as we started to get better at messaging to them and telling them what to expect, we realized we couldn't just communicate it once. We had to communicate it over and over again in every place that a reader might see it, and with infographics. So we started getting better about putting things on our site that would actually show them what all of these things meant. You know, what an EPUB is, a MOBI, a PDF. It's a very complicated world for the average reader. And then also how to choose the right file format, how to download. And I can tell you, for every effort we make to make it really simple for the customer, it's still too complicated. So here's another example of lesson files and how we can aggravate and alienate the reader if we don't make it really easy. Okay, and here's lesson 4. Readers design their own experience, right? So this is why designers and authors hate ebooks, because they allow you to enlarge your type or pick your typeface or read horizontally or vertically, so we have to allow for a user experience that that the user can own, and yet we can gently and politely request that they do things that we'd like them to do, as this suggests here. I don't know if you can read it. In testing, the production team for this ebook have found that the most effective way to view this title is in portrait mode, vertical, showing a single page at a time, with the font set to Serifs at the smallest type size. This allows for the best code breaks and layout experience. So we thought this is a way to say, gentle reader, here's what we recommend. Now, how many people actually saw that? I don't know, but we're trying. And then lesson 5, QA matters, another stupidly obvious one. We thought with our normal pre-flighting process, we could send our books to conversion houses, and they were doing their own validation of the files, that the files could go up. You know, if you're publishing on software that's revving and you need to get up into the bookstore immediately, day and date, there's not time for another proofing. Well, we soon found out that we did have to build into our workflow a whole new proofing phase with all sorts of very specific guidelines that our team uses every day for proofing the EPUBs. And when in doubt, we leave it out. You can see this is a pull-out from a book, a print book, and in the early days of EPUB, that might have been left in, and it didn't display well, and we'd get customer complaints of, you know, why is this sticking in the middle of our page or wherever, or figures and their cut lines were separated. So the Q&A fixed all that. Okay, so those were 5 simple lessons, and I thought, while I've got you, I would talk about some of the books and browsers work we're doing, meaning getting outside of the app and outside of the proprietary reader. We're trying some things. As I said, we're partners with O'Reilly in Safari Books Online and Creative Edge, and so all of our books and videos are in Creative Edge. And then we're also doing the visual quick start guides as purchased by the chapter. These are HTML tagged chunks that can be purchased by the chapter. So when Liz was talking about modular, she meant it in, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, in that the modular worked with the other titles. Here we're actually pulling stuff apart, atomizing it, and allowing it to stand on its own as a tutorial. So we tagged all of the tutorials and then are selling them for 99 cents a chapter as a test, and then we'll find out how it's working. So this is how it would appear in HTML in the Google Instant program. Another thing we're very excited about is APIs. Pearson has something called the Pearson Developer Community, and I put the tag down below here. It's developer.pearson.com, and it's basically a sandbox where people can access the Visual Quick Start Guide APIs and develop apps around it. And we, if you go to TechCrunch, you can watch a video of a couple German entrepreneurs who actually used the tutorials in our books in an application that they're building. So it's opening up our content to developers, and in a highly structured, tagged way, so that they can access it by the chapter, by the tutorial, etc. So that, I think, is it. Thank you very much. Do we have time for question? Okay, time for one question. Okay, thank you very much.